meals a day. While we all have the right to buy food, we don't have the moral right to waste it. And it is our moral obligation to use it well. And to extend on this idea, we have with us here today Mr. Venkatraman Balakrishnan to deliver the keynote address. Could we please have a round of applause for him?
Good morning, my most beloved master and dignitaries on the dais and friends of this program who have taken the time to come here this morning. I'm grateful for the opportunity to stand before you and share some thoughts, being a keen student of the management of waste. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, food is Brahma. From food, all creatures are born. And having been born, by food they live. And having departed, into food again they enter. Food is the core of life. It is possible for every life form, including human beings, to survive without clothing, to survive without shelter. But food is the fulcrum, the cause of existence. That being said, it is mind-boggling how many people in the world are struggling for this sustenance, are struggling to figure out where their next meal is going to come from, whose purpose of existence is awaiting the next meal so that they can stay alive. It is in respect to the segment of populace that M.K. Gandhi said, there are people in this world so hungry that God cannot appear to them except in the form of food. Over the last months, years, having got involved in learning and living the value of food. 4 or 5 days ago, I had an experience that affected me very deeply. I was driving from Chennai to Vellore, and there was a cyclone which skirted our state last week. It was pouring rain. We had stopped for lunch. I was driving with a colleague. We had stopped for lunch. It was around 3:30. We ate lunch, and then I requested the waiter to pack a meal. The person who was with me said, "It's already 4 o'clock. Will there be somebody who hasn't had? I mean, you're packing a whole meal. Koi milega kya khane wala is what?" So I responded to that person saying, we assume that people have access to food when they want, because we are blessed with having access to food when we want. And consequently, we take it for granted that everybody has access to food when they want. The fact is, a lot of people don't have access to food even when they need it, let alone want it. And 5 minutes after I started driving, there was a rag picker with a bag on his shoulder walking along on the left side. It was raining. He was quite old. He must have been 65, 70. I stopped and I asked him, have you eaten? And he had a very distant look in his eyes, couldn't see very well. And he said, no, I haven't. So I said, and the meal was still hot because we had just packed it minutes ago. And I gave it to him. And he said, I haven't eaten a hot meal in 7 years. My wife died 7 years ago, and there has been nobody since then to cook a hot meal for me. And he was overwhelmed by the fact that there was this meal that had found its way to him. And what was mind-boggling was what he did thereafter. So this meal came with a plantain leaf in it, where he could sit down, spread the leaf and eat. And it was raining, and he spread the leaf right there on the road at the exact moment At the exact time, space where I gave it to him, he sat down, he spread that leaf, and he ate the food. So this is the value of food. And this is the value that we take for granted. And sometimes throw away without realizing that it has got tremendous life-giving, life-changing potential. So there's one perspective of food as a life force, which is a resource that is important to optimally deploy and leverage. George Bernard Shaw once said, "There is no sincerer love than the love of food." Now, how do we have the heart to throw away something that we love and something that is the cause of life? And what happens when we throw it away? So I was in the US recently at International Congress on Solid Waste Management, where we had waste managers from around the world who had come to share their experiences and what they were doing. So there are two basic approaches to managing waste. One is a linear approach, where something starts from its point of origin, and whatever is not consumed, whatever is a waste, ends up in a dump site. The developing standard of waste management calls for landfills. Landfills are well planned. They are what are called sanitary landfills, where there are pits dug and there is a protection afforded for leachate from not permeating through the soil, thereby affecting groundwater and other things. But in our country, we are not there yet. So we create dump sites, and we go and dump food, we dump all kinds of waste. This, once it starts decomposing, creates havoc. Decomposing food emits methane. Methane is 21 times more lethal than carbon dioxide. And we know from learning so much that media tells us, and we also experience in our own lives, that our carbon footprint is directly proportional to climate change. So, managing, the first focus is to eliminate waste. But there are times when, despite best efforts, there is some amount of waste. Then the question is, how do you manage the unavoidable waste after doing everything diligently possible to prevent the wastage? Food waste and marine litter are probably globally two of the biggest challenges to a resource recovery approach to waste. Right? Because waste is also a resource. What we throw away is somebody's waste, is somebody else's resource. And so then, what do you do with the waste that you are not able to avoid? It's again important to handle it responsibly, to segregate it at source, to compost it. When you compost waste, you stay invested in the food chain, because the manure that is generated from this compost goes to create more food. Right? So it is not a leakage, it is a perpetuation of the circular approach to waste management. Now, this is all, it is nice to, a lot of us feel that the problem is very big, and how can I make a difference? But the key is that each of us can make a difference. And I think enough is happening around the world today for us to understand that at individual, at local community levels, we can make a big difference. And I would like to share with you some thoughts in terms of how we can make this our own, live it in our lives. One very growing and established global practice is the redistribution of soon-to-expire food from retail chains. Right? So sometimes you end up with food with a shelf life of 1 month, 2 months left, and the retailer is pretty much clear that it's old stock, nobody will buy it. But it's still good to consume, right? So at the end of the lifespan, it goes into a downside. Sometimes it will go back to the vendor, and the vendor will throw it away, or the retailer will throw it away. But this is good for human consumption. So one thing we can do is start a group that goes to the retail stores and starts picking up this food and redistributing it in a manner that is useful. The second, and in an emerging economy, a big challenge is the inefficiencies in the supply chain. In the supply chain that brings food from the farm gate to the wholesaler, from the wholesaler to the distributor, to the retailer, and in the end to the consumer. Every link has its own inefficiencies, and this inefficiency creates a lot of waste. And most of the waste that is created in these inefficiencies ends up directly in downside. It doesn't go anywhere else. The other option is to create a process that will enable the collection and redistribution of food from banquets, large public events. Invariably, it is our culture to provide well for our guests. So when we are expecting 100 guests, we will tell the caterer, you provide for 120 people. And today everybody is conscious of how much they eat. So 100 people will eat probably 70 people's food. So you have 50 people's food which is sitting there waste. And then what do you do with it? So there are already established chains which are gathering this food and redistributing it to people for whom it can make a difference. And finally, there's something that I do in my own community in Hyderabad, which is community refrigerators, which work as localized food banks. Where, like in our community, we have 1,500 apartments. We put up refrigerators in the pantry where our staff eat. We have almost 200 staff. In the housekeeping, the gardeners, there's that, so many of them. And invariably there is excess food in somebody's house. So instead of throwing it away, you go down to the pantry, you go down to the staff dining area, keep it in the refrigerator there. Staff who've not been able to get food for the day, they can pick it up and eat. Somebody can take it home for the night. You know, they go home late, they cannot cook. They can grab the food from there. So it's important to understand, appreciate, and live the importance of food, and live the fact that food is the life force. As important and inevitable breath is to life, so is food. If you cannot breathe, and if you cannot eat, you cannot survive. So these are the thoughts I would like to leave you with, and I would like to request and appeal that each of us make this cause our own, because this is a cause that each person can make a difference in. If I can make a difference in one other person's life by providing the food for one other person, we have more well-fed people in this country than we have hungry people. So if each of us takes responsibility for one hungry person, then that will change the life of that hungry person. And this is a cause where each of us can make a difference. So I would appeal and request that we all take ownership of this cause, and in furtherance of coming here and identifying with it, to actually go out and live it and make a difference. Thank you very much.